Hello, Bill. My name's Barry. I'm sending you this video because I really want you to hear what I have to say about your worldview after having read Culture Warrior. And there isn't enough time on your radio show for you to be able to give me the amount of time I would need to say my piece. So I've sent you a letter in the mail. I've sent it to you via email, and I'm now sending you this tape, which I'm also going to post on YouTube. So hopefully one way or the other you'll catch wind of it, and I don't know, maybe it'll do some good. So let me go ahead and read it to you, because I like it just the way I wrote it. And to do that, I'm going to have to glance over at my computer screen while I'm taping this, so forgive my lack of eye contact. Here we go. Bill, I'm a Rhode Island Democrat. Have been all my life. I'm also, if I do say so myself, a thinker and a devout nonconformist. I'm a dissenter. Clarence Darrow is my idol. But I am also, unlike some in the traditionalist movement, open-minded. As such, I listen. I listen to you. Every day if I can on Sirius satellite radio, and I agree with you on occasion. I even called in once to the Radio Factor, and I got through. We spoke briefly, and you sent me a signed copy of Culture Warrior, which I'd been thinking about picking up anyway. Thanks. Having read it now, though, and having come, I believe, to more fully understand you and the traditionalist movement, as well as what you consider to be the secular progressive movement, I wish to opine in your direction. The first thing I want to say is that I believe you're a good guy. I believe that you go out of your way to give everyone the benefit of the doubt more than not. I find you to be fair in your approach to your job, and that's saying a lot in today's political and social climate. I believe further that you're very intelligent. However, this, I believe, is both a blessing and curse to you. Your intelligence may seem to you to be your best friend, but I believe it is your fatal flaw. I believe it will be the undoing of your effectiveness in the shaping of this nation's society. You've taken so much stock of your own intelligence that despite your too infrequent protestations to the contrary, you think that you know it all, that you can't learn anything new, you can't be taught anything new, and that you can't be wrong. Allow me to elaborate. You've divided Americans into two categories, traditionalists and secular progressives. This was your first mistake. Many people that I know, myself included, could not be put completely in either category. Let me explain. I'm an atheist, but I'm not for open borders. To the contrary, I want the borders closed. I want immigrants to come here legally. I want them to learn to speak English, and I want them to all pay taxes. I want them to either apply for citizenship or go home. I am anti-union, as I think that unions have too much of a stranglehold on businesses and municipalities, that too many people in the unions are people who could have better lives without the unions if they simply learned English and or went to school nights if need be, to get better educated. And while I would not say that I am for wealth redistribution, I do think that corporate greed is off the charts across the board, not just in the case of the oil companies, and that something other than more unionizing needs to be done to knock it back several notches. I'm against legalizing hard narcotics, but I am for gay marriage. I'm for legal abortion, but not beyond the point at which Roe v. Wade bans it. I'm for school vouchers, but I think that the No Child Left Behind Act is a complete joke. So, what am I, Bill? I'm in a class that your culture war has not defined. I believe that I'm not alone in my undefined group, and that a vast number of Americans would also not fit into either of the groups discussed in your book, and this, as I see it, is a problem for you. It's a problem because once you acknowledge that we're out here, and really, I don't see how you can avoid it, if you're honest and as forthright as I believe you are, you will have to do what you do a little differently. You would no longer be able to fight your fight the way you have been. Even if I'm wrong, and I could be, I still think that you need to re-examine your worldview. Let's look at Christmas. You've got it in your head that the SPs want to eliminate all mentions of Christmas from American life. Maybe they do. I don't. But I do want fairness. Fairness is a word that the traditionalists do not seem to know the definition of, especially in this arena. While I am not, in my opinion, an SP, this bothers me. Here's the cold hard fact, Bill. We're not all Christians in America. Some of us celebrate Hanukkah. Some of us celebrate Yule, the winter solstice. Some folks celebrate Kwanzaa. I sort of celebrate Christmas, but in a secular way. I don't do the whole church thing. Now, last year, Recognizing this, and wishing to be inclusive, wishing to be kind and thoughtful, and to avoid marginalizing entire segments of our society while simultaneously giving another segment preferential treatment, the stores made commercials and put up displays that said Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas, and you and your ilk lost your minds. Now why? Well, it's certainly not because, as you claim, you felt that since more people in the U.S. are Christian and that Christians are the largest segment of gift buyers in December, stores should pander to them. It's not because of that. It's because Christians will not be satisfied until this country is completely under their thrall. It's because Christians think that they, because of their majority, should be able to force the rest of the country to pretend that no other religions exist. That is what they wanted the stores to do last year. Plain and simple. Now, how can it be that you don't know this? How can it be that you don't know this is wrong? Yeah, sure, majority rule is a respected convention of our society. But there are times, Bill, when we can and should go another way, and December is one of those times. Those stores were wrong to cave into the demands of yourself and of your ilk last year. And while they're again caving into your wishes this year, I hope they don't ever do so again. If they continue to do this, they will be treating all non-Christian Americans like second-class citizens. They should run ads and make displays next year and every year hence that each feature one of the handful of religious holidays celebrated by different groups of people. One for Christmas, one for Hanukkah, etc. If they're not going to be allowed to say Happy Holidays. If you're fair, you can't object to this idea. And if you're fair, you must see that Christians being in the majority is no justification for the marginalization of others. It's just plain rude. It's just plain rude. So, I don't want Christmas whitewashed or removed from public view. But I also don't want those who celebrate other holidays to be ignored and treated as though they don't exist, not by store chains or governments. I also don't want all references to religion removed from the public square. Further, I don't want the overbearance wrought by Judeo-Christians to continue. I don't want Judeo-Christianity to continue to permeate American society to the degree that it currently does, while simultaneously overshadowing all other faiths and atheism in the public arena. I don't want Judeo-Christians to be able to continue to conduct business as usual, as if they are the only kids in the sandbox, majority or no. I want them to be polite, and to allow other faiths, and atheism, to have as much face time in public as they do. This is only morally fair. They don't want moral fairness, though. They want to say, there are more of us, so screw you. Wow. Real Christian of them. Further, contrary to your opinion and contrary to what they'd say, my opinion is that Judeo-Christians want to drastically change the country too. They want to roll back time. Accepting technological advances and a small number of civil rights advances like women getting the vote, blacks being emancipated and getting the vote since the 1700s, they want to make life in America like it was in the 1700s. They want us to do more than be merely aware of the fact that our heritage includes a period where most here were Judeo-Christians when it comes to structuring our society legislatively. They want us to base all of our laws directly and exclusively on the faith that those who founded this country almost 300 years ago overwhelmingly expressed, and without accounting for the fact that doing so would force non-Judeo-Christians to live more like Judeo-Christians to the extent that their own religious freedom is squelched by the forced adoption on their part of Judeo-Christian values. In short, they want to turn this country into a Judeo-Christian theocracy, in the way that Saudi Arabia is a Muslim theocracy. There can be no doubt about that, Bill, despite what they say in public. And there's a lot to be said for tradition. But how long can we go on as a dynamic people, a living, breathing, national entity, without accepting that as the ethnic makeup of our melting pot society changes, the way it has dramatically since 1776, with peoples of many faiths residing here now, contributing to society as much as Judeo-Christians have and do, the extent to which we allow 300-year-old traditions to dictate the legislative process must lessen to accommodate new traditions and to acknowledge our evolving heritage. I say the time has come to stop looking as far backwards as we do, as often as we do, and to embrace a new heritage that gives non-Judeo-Christians their due alongside Judeo-Christians in what future generations of Americans will call their heritage. It's time to take under God out of the pledge, restoring it to its original form, and making it everyone's pledge again. A pledge that speaks to and for all Americans, regardless of who might not be forced to say it. It's time to recognize that we have a new, more tangible, traditional background in America, going back not 300 years, but maybe only 50 years, which includes non-Judeo-Christian sentiments. Further, it's time to stop throwing around the phrase personal responsibility so heavy-handedly. Yes, we must be sure to not tolerate lackadaisicalness or strict and wanton reliance upon social programs or even collective bargaining, which is financial arm twisting, to make a living. At the same time, we must look at just how much money is in the hands of fat cats in America and make a judgment on that in light of the definitions of words like greed and opulence, judgments which must lead us to take action, be it in the arena of tax code changes or law enforcement crackdowns on illegalities like tax code loophole exploitations and other tax dodges, or in the arena of penalizing companies for over-outsourcing their work and other overly profit-driven actions which are completely devoid of compassion for and are interest in the well-being of the majority of American society. We must take actions to foster a less greedy approach to life and business on behalf of big corporations without increasing the number or power of unions in America. So, given that I think that way, Bill, what does that make me? You don't know? Well, it would seem that you need to rethink your worldview, as I said before, and figure it out. You know why? Because we're not going away, whoever we are. We're going to keep at it until the government stops treating Christianity with favoritism, which it did some decades ago by adding the phrase "under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance, and which it continues to do today by clinging much too strongly to our Judeo-Christian heritage, refusing to see it for what it is, something that needs to be put into perspective and which must not be used any longer as a cudgel to grind to dust the human rights and the natural freedoms of non-Judeo-Christian Americans, or as the Christians would have it, as the sole guiding force of the legislative process, in a time where many different heritages exist among the modern populace. I mean, what? Did time stop in 1776? What are the contributions of the non-Judeo-Christians who have come to settle here in the past 300 years? Are there no traditions or principles that have come from non-Judeo-Christians that have made this country better in some way in the last 300 years? When are we going to take E pluribus unum to heart? When are we going to honor those traditions? I think the time has come. And we're not going away, like I said, until corporate America grows by the force of legislation, if necessary, a conscience, and operates more widely in ways that allow financial security to be more easily achieved and maintained by all Americans. By, for example, lowering the prices of goods and services, at the expense of CEOs if need be, and at the expense of profits if need be, to make more goods and services more accessible to current lower-income Americans, or by simply better compensating the workers, whom, in turn, may gain the ability to work fewer hours in order to maintain the same standard of living they have now, and, again in turn, spend that extra time, which they wouldn't otherwise have, on skill-improving ventures such as learning English and further education, which would help them get better-paying jobs, and in time, improve their standard of living on their own. Yes, personal responsibility. But there's no reason why corporate America couldn't make exercising personal responsibility a little easier to do. I'll continue to look forward to your program with the hope that you'll see that I'm right about all of this. Good day.